It's match day 11 of the Premier League this weekend, and things are getting trickier. After last weekend, the two North London clubs continue their strong start with big matches away at Newcastle and Chelsea. Manchester City and Liverpool will take on bottom dwellers as we try to find value amongst the weed here on the Plus Money Podcast. I'm Andrew Passaro. He's Ani Sridhar. Welcome back. We had a nice little weekend here last weekend, or at least I did. And things are only getting trickier. It's such a weird weekend in the Premier League. There's a lot of value on the board, but I've added two teams to my do not bet list after last weekend. That is West Ham. That is Brighton. I'm not betting on either of them. And frankly, Newcastle should be on that list as well. After their weekend last weekend, I think they got that 2-2 draw against Wolves, but then following up with a nice 3-0 win at Manchester United, who have now suffered back-to-back 3-0 wins at Manchester United. And shout out Admiral Akbar, because Fulham, Manchester United, 8:30 Eastern this weekend. It's a trap. It is a trap. Do not bet on Fulham money line. Do not bet on Manchester United money line. I think there's only one value in that game, and I think it's corners. We'll see if we're going to talk about it. But you can follow us at Andrew Passaro, at Ani323, at the Plus Money Pod. Ani, how are you feeling going into a weekend with no football for Chelsea, but a big one on Monday night?
Indifferent, because we're coming off a pretty good betting weekend last week with we had the City and the over 2.5 come through for us. We had our Madrid picks were pretty on spot. Aston Villa's team total was on spot, but yeah, I mean, a big letdown spot from Chelsea last weekend against Brentford. I thought they were kind of on the rise after their 2-2 draw against Arsenal. It looks like they play better against better teams. Like, they've got a 1-1 draw against Liverpool and a 2-2 draw against Arsenal on the cards this season. So maybe they play better against Tottenham on Monday night. But I'm excited to get into this slate. We actually have a lot of good games. But it was kind of tough to find some value when it came to betting. So that's a lesson for everyone. You don't have to bet every game. Just pick and choose where you can find the edge.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just found one more to add for one more. You mentioned the Aston Villa team total, and that might be going into my parlay pieces parlay for later, which was currently at plus 869. I might take something out and put that in there. I'm not starting with England early on Saturday. I'm going to Germany. There's a team I've been betting on rather regularly of late. They've been hot, and it's Xabi Alonso's Bayer Leverkusen. They are taking on Hoffenheim, who are another top 6 Bundesliga team. And are scoring quite a lot. They've got 20 goals already this season. I think they're 20-16 goal to concede ratio when I looked earlier. But Leverkusen and over 2.5 is -115, which is good enough to play on its own for a lot of people. But if you're like me, you're going to Leverkusen, and both teams have scored plus 135. That hit last weekend for Leverkusen, and it's hitting 4 out of the 5. For Leverkusen and Hoffenheim are averaging 2+ goals per match this season. So I'm going to start there. Leverkusen and both teams to score plus 135. I think the over 3.5 is also a playable number in this one as well. So maybe that's one to consider. This will not be the last game from Germany I reference on this podcast.
Oh, nice tease. I am going to bring it back to England, however, for an early Saturday morning. You mentioned that United game. I'm taking United team corners, which is also away corners in this contest, over 5.5 at plus 110. I say it every week. This is a must win for United. And I think if it's anything but a win this weekend, Erik ten Hag's done come Sunday afternoon. Even though they lost to Manchester City last Sunday, they still had 7 corners. They lost to Newcastle this past midweek. I think they still had 5 corners. So they're hitting the 5 to 8 mark pretty much in every game this season. And at plus odds, that's good enough value for me to take it here.
Yeah, I think that's the only playable way for this game is to attack the corners. I can't get a read on Fulham. I think they're like finishing 15th or 16th this season. Definitely just not the team that they were last year. That's a huge number at home. I think they're like plus 240 to beat Man United at Fulham. I'm not going to disagree with you that I think Ten Hag is gone if they lose this game. It just comes down to finances. Manchester United are a mess in the back room, and that's a conversation for another podcast. Do you have anything for the 10 a.m.? Because if not, I'm going to jump right to Newcastle Arsenal.
Well, it's technically 11 a.m. this weekend, not 10 a.m. So yeah, I do have a play, two plays for the 11 a.m. One, well, technically three, 2.5. I'll put it like that. But I've got City -2.5 spread, -102 against Bournemouth. This is just screams 3-0, 4-0 Manchester City win here against the bottom feeder team like Bournemouth. City looked really good last Sunday against United. We talked about it here. Having Rodri back is just so massive for that team. They had a pretty solid midweek as well. So my next pick was Brentford and West Ham. You said you're not betting West Ham. I like both teams to score in the over 2.5. I got that at -102 as well. I could see a draw for sure. I really don't know who wins this game, but I think there's enough attacking pieces on both sides of the ball and not enough good defense being played by either team where they're going to be able to hold off. The last bet I thought
Hold
I
on,
was
hold
going to
on.
play. Yeah.
I have a crazy stat for you for West Ham and the both teams to score because it's in a parlay for later in the show. So let me read it off now.
Yeah.
First of all, no Paqueta and no Alvarez for West Ham, both picking up yellow card accumulation suspension, so they're out for this game. But both teams to score has hit an 8 of 10 EPL matches so far for West Ham this year. 12 of the 15 total matches. It's hit in all 3 of their Europa League matches and 1 of their 2 EFL Cup runs. So, the both teams to score at -160 might be my favorite piece of the entire weekend. So adding the 2.5 there in that game is definitely very playable. We saw Brentford get 2 at Chelsea last weekend. I think I kind of lean Brentford money line personally with those 2 suspensions for West Ham. But yeah, I agree with you. I could see it going either way. I could see a draw, but I love the both teams to score in that game.
Yeah, the last one I did consider was taking the over in the Everton-Brighton game. Everton have been playing a lot better this year than their record shows. I think we all know this. They've gotten some pretty unfortunate results. They also had a nice 3-0 victory in the midweek. Brighton has tailed off since their hot start at the beginning of the year, but they could get Purvis Estupiñán back this weekend. I saw he's trending a little bit more upwards. He would be a big missing piece, a fullback that really part of their attack. He really gets Matoma going as well. So I think there's goals to be had in this game, but the line for over 2.5 is a little too high, and even paired with the both teams to score, it's not enough value. But if you're feeling a little frisky, maybe sprinkle it on that over 3.5, but not one of my official plays.
One thing to look out for Everton, if you're like me and you're an investor in them to get relegated, there's rumors of them getting a 12-point reduction because of financial fair play, which I think going into last weekend would have left them on -5 points. And if you're also like me and you have Sheffield to finish bottom, I'm like, I still think even with the points reduction, Everton won't finish bottom because Sheffield are just.
I think Sheffield are just
awful.
So bad.
Awful. All right, let's get to the big one. You're right. It is 1:30 on Saturday. I think the Saturday games, England already turned their clock back. We turn our clock back this weekend. So
Saturday going into Sunday. Yeah.
So, right. So the Saturday games are an hour later, which means you have an hour to sleep in, which means there's more time for you to wake up and watch Manchester United against Fulham if that's a decision you want to make. Arsenal are taking on Newcastle. I'm still going to take Arsenal money line +155. The Newcastle number is very good. Both teams are in the plus. I think Arsenal team total over 1.5 at +144 is playable. But I also think both teams to score in over 2.5 at +115 is a great number. We just haven't seen Newcastle do it yet. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen them get these results against teams that they're supposed to beat, but in these games against teams that are supposed to be on their level, we haven't seen them do it. Yes, we saw them beat PSG at home in the Champions League, but that was, one, PSG lined up horrendously, and two, there's also some major players now missing for Newcastle. There's no Isak, obviously Sandro Tonali suspended. Sven Botman could be out injured. There's just some big pieces missing for Newcastle, who were able to rotate rather heavily against Manchester United in the cup game. They got all three, they got the win at Old Trafford, but I just don't think they're going to be able to handle this Arsenal team, who fully changed and are now out of the League Cup. I I just lean Arsenal on this one. But if you're not like me, both teams scoring over 2.5 plus 115. And if you think something could happen similar where Newcastle get the hot start and Arsenal come back and take the draw, the over 3.5 is plus 240. And it's hit out of 3 out of the last 5 for both teams in all comps, and 6 out of the 10 matches for both teams in the Premier League this season. So we could see goals in this one. Like I said, plus 240 is a great number. But I also don't hate Arsenal team total over 1.5 plus 144. But Arsenal money line plus 155 and both teams score and over 2.5 plus 115 are officially on my card. The other two, you have to check Pickett and see.
I've only got one play from this, and it's Newcastle money line at plus 175. I'm going completely against it. This happens sometimes here on the plus money pot. We're on the complete opposite sides. It's happened a few times. I really liked what I saw in the midweek. I think Arsenal's injuries are a little bit more serious than we, thought. Just because Eddie Nketiah scores a hat trick against Sheffield United does not mean they're all fine and dandy up top. I think he's can't replace what Gabriel Jesus does for the team, and just not a goal scoring way, just kind of creating space, creating chances. And Nketiah's not that kind of striker. He's a pure goal scorer. He's not going to be creating chances for your team. So I don't think we're going to get a repeat performance from Nketiah. I think this Newcastle defense plays a lot better at home. Yes, these big teams were able to get results at Newcastle last season, but I think Newcastle, I think they come away with a win. I think it's maybe like a 2-1, maybe even a 2-0. They're going to try to go back to their identity as a pretty strong defensive club. I really like Anthony Gordon, who's now going to be in the starting lineup every week because of the injuries that you mentioned. And I like the Newcastle side in this contest. You like the Arsenal side. That's the best part about two heavyweights going at it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. I don't know if Newcastle have it in a big moment like this yet against other EPL sides because they haven't done it yet. So we'll see. I mentioned the Pickett app. It's a great app. It's free. It tracks your bets. You can follow your friends, see what they're betting, and then with one click of a button, you can be on it just as easily with them. It's going to sync with all of your sports books, your FanDuel, your DraftKings, whatever. And then you can track everything week by week, month by month, lets you know how many units you're up. You can set it into units, you can set it into dollars, you can set it into whatever. And it's totally free. We use it all the time. And I'll be putting some bets out on Pickett this weekend, and you can follow me there at Andrew Passaro. But if you use our promo code Plus Money, when you sign up for free, you can win $3. You can win $100. The sign up link is in the description or the bio of if you're watching us on YouTube or if you're listening to the podcast. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, please just hit that like button and that subscribe button. It's a big help to us. And additionally, if you're listening on either Spotify or Apple, you can subscribe. You can leave 5 stars. And on Spotify, I've been leaving a question or a poll of the episode. So usually I'll set it to what's gonna be the result for Newcastle and Arsenal. We'll probably set it to win, draw, or who's gonna win, who's gonna lose, or whatever. Moving on, let's go to Sunday. Nottingham Forest taking on Aston Villa, Luton taking on Liverpool, and then we'll get to Monday when we have Tottenham taking on Chelsea. Villa have kind of been the darling of this podcast the last couple weeks. And then to win and over 1.5 of the match is plus 110. Over 2.5, same thing, and a Villa win is plus 165. And Villa and both teams score is plus 240. Villa have not kept a clean sheet in the Premier League since September 24th against Chelsea. That's 4 straight EPL matches. Both teams have scores hit in a few of their Europa Conference League matches. So I do think Villa and BTTS at plus 240 is a really fun number. I'm just going to stick with the over 1.5. But I do think those other two, maybe half unit sprinkle on either. That's where I'm going for Forest taking on Villa.
Yeah, I had it just at Villa money line at minus 120 was going to be my pick, but now that you mentioned, I can get Villa money line plus the over 1.5 at plus, what was it, 110. Yeah, that's now going to be my bet. There's definitely going to be more than one goal in this contest. Forest, wants to kind of similar to Crystal Palace. They're a lot better team at home. I believe they have the worst road record in the Prem dating back to last season, but they do tend to get pretty good results here. That's why I think the Villa number is not higher. I did expect this to come out like maybe 170, minus 160. So maybe it's a little bit of a trap, but I'm fully falling for it just because Villa have been a cash cow here recently for us, so I'm just going to go back to ride that wagon.
All right, Luton taking on Liverpool, the 11:30 Sunday match, and we're gonna go to the same bet that we hit last weekend for the Villa game. It's when they took on Luton. It's Liverpool and over 3.5 at plus 125. Um, it's Liverpool are scoring goals. Yes, they only scored 2 against Bournemouth in the midweek in a cup game, but the rain was literally coming down sideways. There was 60-mile-per-hour gust. There was literally a point where the goalie took a goal kick and the ball like blew backwards after going into the wind. So they got 2 on the road against Bournemouth. I'm very happy with that, but I think this Luton team is bad. If you don't think there's going to be 3 goals in the game, or if you don't think there's going to be 4 goals in the game, I like Liverpool over 2.5, over 8.5 corners and 22 plus shots. I forgot what I got that at. I think it was like plus 165. It'll be in the description. I'll check it. And one, just to note, Darwin Núñez has scored or assisted in 7 straight matches. He's minus 165 anytime. I have a parlay that is in later, but that's just a great stat for the weekend.
Yeah, I've got the over 3.5 at plus 106. It's just my play for this. I didn't take Liverpool money line or Luton. I try to avoid pairing the money line with the total when the team's on the road. You just never know what's going to happen. Like this could be a 2-2 result, maybe Luton. And we've seen Liverpool's defense be bad all year, especially conceding first. I didn't take that this week, but I definitely see goals. And I heard you mention Darwin Núñez. If you haven't seen his goal from the midweek, everyone should definitely go see that because it was an absolute screamer.
Yeah, they've been a lot better on the conceding first. They haven't conceded. It's the last 4 games they haven't conceded first. Obviously, clean sheet against Everton, waxed Toulouse 5-1, 3-0 win against Forest, and scored first against Bournemouth in their 2-1 win. So the defense is definitely, I think, trending upwards, but there is no Andy Robertson out there. So that is, there's one less body out there. Let's go. Tottenham taking on Chelsea. Monday Night Football, under the lights. Is this the game that Tottenham take their first loss? If this one was at Chelsea, I would say maybe. But I'm still going to take Spurs plus 110. Money line. I do like over 1.5 goals, over 8.5 corners, and a Son shot on target at plus 127. And I think Spurs team total over 1.5 at minus 106 is a great parlay piece. I just don't think that Chelsea have the goals on the road just yet. If Nkunku is healthy for this game, I think we're having a different conversation, but he's still a couple more weeks away. Cole Palmer, maybe shot or goal or assist in this one is definitely playable. Really enjoying his form for Chelsea. And Chelsea have done well in their matches ups against, the traditional big 6 so far this season. Obviously drawing with Liverpool on opening day and that 2-2 result against Arsenal. But this is on the road, and Big Ange has these boys humming for some reason. So I'm just gonna stick with Spurs money line and pray that it loses. But I gotta ride with Spurs right now.
Yeah, I mean, we've already gone kind of long here, so I'm gonna keep it short. Don't bet on Chelsea. Just don't do it. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
watch this game with nothing on the line. I stayed away.
Yeah. All right. Parlays for the weekend that I do like. Liverpool, City, and Leverkusen all money line at over 2.5 at plus 290. My parlay piece one that I've been referencing all pod. We've talked about Palace first half unders. There it's at minus 152. Stack that with Brentford, West Ham, both teams to score at minus 160. Dortmund and Bayern over 3.5, which has hit in 8 straight matches for them straight up head to head. That's at minus 110. And then Spurs team total over 1.5 at minus 106. That's plus 869. If you want to swap out the Spurs one and add the Villa team total over 1.5, I don't know what that's at. You could do that. That's playable. That's playable. And then my goal assist parlay. We're going to Darwin Núñez at minus 165, Jude Bellingham for Real Madrid minus 155, and Ollie Watkins minus 110 against Nottingham Forest. That's plus 411. I'm not 100% on that one. So if you've got a player for goal or assist that you like for the weekend, tweet at me at Andrew Passaro, and maybe we'll cook something up. That's going to wrap it up from us. We've got one more podcast before we get to an international break. We are 4 days away from Liverpool, Manchester City, 7:30. Coming out of that international break. That is going to be a huge one for the entire season. That game is going to determine if I put a future on Liverpool to win the Premier League. But that will wrap it up from us. I'm Andrew Passaro at Andrew Passaro. He's Ani Sridhar at Ani323. We are the Plus Money Podcast at the Plus Money Pod. Let's stay positive this weekend. Best of luck. We'll catch you next week.